Hey, broken salespeople, welcome to the workshop. My name is Red Staffstrom, and we are here to help you fix your broken sales skills. So today we're doing another interview, and today it is with Zach. Like always, I don't know a ton of details. We talked for a grand total of about 4 minutes before this interview. So most of what you hear is going to be just as new to you as it is to me. Zach is doing financial coaching, communication. He's also working a full-time night job and balancing a family with 3 kids. I mean, how'd I hit it? Did I hit all the major broad strokes there?
Definitely the major ones, yes.
Okay. So why don't you tell
We
everybody a
just
little bit?
completed a house build, if that helps.
Okay, that one sounds fun too.
Yeah,
So your house, I assume, obviously.
yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it were just doing like Habitat for Humanity or something like
No, it was
that.
it was ours. We just finished it, but
Yeah. Okay, so you've got a lot on your plate then.
yeah,
Okay. Well, why don't we kind of let's start with the simple obligations and then we'll dive more into the fun stuff. So you're doing
sounds good.
40 hours a week working nights.
Yes,
Okay. That's your W-2 job. That's what gives you the benefits. That's what your biggest time suck is right now.
absolutely.
All right. How and now you're launching the financial coaching, the communication coaching. How long have you been doing that?
About a year. November will be a year.
Okay, so you're right on that mark then.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, and what has been some of your experiences, some of your headaches?
just the inflow of client or the inflow of at least consults. I'm having a hard time getting consults, especially my beginning, I guess, marketing plan was to me as in walking in businesses and talking to people and holding some live workshop type stuff, but that was quickly shut down in March. So my whole marketing plan had to change, and I've never been an online person, so I've had to shift, and that's been a big struggle for me to shift in that mindset.
Okay. So, and I hear the kids in the background too. So that's a whole nother can of worms to dive into too. So you've got with 3 kids in the full-time business, you've got 60 hours of obligation plus a full-time like business that you're trying to run.
Absolutely.
How many hours a week are you normally able to put towards the consulting business, the coaching business?
So since August 1st, since I did the night job was kind of strategic in this process, was so that I could work more during the day. So essentially, I probably average probably 50 to 60 hours a week on the coaching and the consulting stuff. Um, just getting the back end of stuff built and just trying to do whatever I could to get some clients in. But
Okay, so the back end of things started up. Let's start with your ideal customer. That's probably going to be step one because when we start to figure that out, then it's going to be a lot easier to figure out what the marketing strategy is. Where does your area of expertise lie? Who's your ideal customer?
So over the last year, I've kind of tried to fine tune that a little bit. So I think what I've come up with is um, young married or either newly, or I guess married or soon to be married couples that are struggling to communicate. Whether it's around finances or around anything, I really feel comfortable with helping people just communicate in general, but then also diving into the financial aspect of that communication.
Okay, so a lot of the like Dave Ramsey kind of things, like
Absolutely.
getting everything together, but more about having those emotional conversations when some people are raised that you just flat out don't talk about money.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your marketing strategy been so far with everything?
I mean, I really haven't tried to spend a whole lot of money, so or haven't had the money to spend, but um, and I've just been focusing on trying to get content out on Facebook and YouTube and stuff. I got a lot of blogs I wrote here recently, and then I'm writing a communication book, so I've spent a lot of time on that lately. About halfway through there. Um, I mean, marketing wise, I mean, just word of mouth ultimately, like Facebook messages, trying to post a bunch of stuff. I tried to do a webinar as a sponsored ad on Facebook,
Yeah.
but it dovetailed and I didn't get anybody to sign up. So
So you got nobody on it then.
nobody.
Okay.
I mean, unless you count my wife, but
Did you record the webinar that you did, or you just didn't wind up doing it at all?
no, I didn't. I haven't done it at all. I was planning on recording it just to have it, but it was supposed to be this week, and I didn't have anybody sign up, so I hadn't done anything yet. I was trying to see if I need to refocus or whatever.
Well, that's something you may want to do, even if you don't have them as a live webinar. Um, I don't know if you've ever been familiar with Russell Brunson and the book Expert Secrets.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's one that I think would be a really good book for you to read. The overall goal with webinars is eventually to start building them where it's an automated part of your business. Where you're spending, say, $100 a week on ads, that's going to create 10 people to sign up to watch the webinar, and you'll get 2 people to sign up for your services.
Yeah.
That's the overall goal. But by having it pre-recorded, like you'll want to practice it a little bit, see, like change it up. But rather than have them sit down and watch the webinar at a specific time, just send them the video.
Yeah.
Or that might work a little better, or you have it recorded and you have it show 3 times a day and they could sign up for the spot that they want.
Yeah.
That might be a better ClickFunnels method for it.
For sure. That makes sense. I did create a small or a short course that kind of gets people started in the communication and budgeting world, which is on my website, and they just got to go there and get there. And so that just went live yesterday. So
okay, so what does your overall how are you envisioning the funnel working?
do what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
How do you picture your funnel working? Like, what do you expect them to do first, and then move on to? I'm assuming one-on-one coaching is the overall goal. Eventually,
One-on-one, I think I'll do some courses and some automated stuff down the road, but for the most part right now, I would love to get into a lot of one-on-one coaching and maybe some group coaching. But I would like you said, I'd like to have the webinars to get people to sign up and then go through my course or whatever, my program that I've built for the building a foundation around your finances, and around your communication skills.
Well, a good thing to do in my mind. So I've been part of a podcast challenge for the last week. And what this guy doing, it was Kerry Eggleton or something like that. I can't remember how he pronounces his last name. Kerry. He's selling a course that's basically an hour video of him setting up a Facebook ad. And he normally sells it for $100 each. And all it really is that $100 video. For you to have that top of funnel, you to be seen as the expert and sell that for $20 and then get them on your email list would probably be a better call to action than a webinar with a specific time.
Yeah.
Get them to spend at least a little bit first and say, like, hey, if you're having problems, I know exactly what it's like with marriages and how tough it is to talk about finances. That might be a good direction to start with too. Have you narrowed? I know you said you started with doing door to door, kind of like just local area. Are you purely focused on doing it in person, or do you want to do it online?
I mean, I've been transitioning everything to online at this point. So that's kind of been the new start in August was, hey, I got to refocus, restart this plan because door to door and me doing local is not going to work right this minute. So
no, it doesn't seem like it's going to change any time in the next couple of months at least. So let's kind of double back to your ideal customers. So young married people.
Yes.
To talk about finances. Have you created any kind of referral network?
I'm starting to, and so that's kind of been part of the push this last couple of months is trying to get the word out there that I do referral or pay for referrals and that type of thing. So it just has nobody's bit on it, if that makes sense.
Okay. So what's your strategy for the referrals? Have you just been going after past clients, or are you going after new people too?
Past clients, and then like with the podcast, if anybody wants to become a referral partner, and they can, at that point, as a host or a company that meshes well with us, like if they have um, an insurance company, and they because I can send people to them and they can send people to me. So I'm kind of looking in that regard too. But yeah,
Okay. Have you
marriage
tried
counselors
partnering?
type thing.
So in terms of people that you could work with really well, I would think F&I managers at car dealerships and real estate agents would probably be your bread and butter.
That- Okay.
That's a great way to sell, is get them, um, whether it's an F&I manager, whether it's the car salespeople, even if it's $20 for every introduction that you do a consult on, and you could figure out what that customer acquisition cost is. But for you
Yeah.
to pay that $20 to do that consult and say like, hey, I know things are tough right now, but in a year we can completely revamp what your credit looks like. Because I know
Yeah.
a lot of like the Dave Ramsey programs, that kind of financial coaching, but you need to get that referral offer in the right hands rather than just past clients.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to brainstorm, I know car dealerships because I worked in car dealerships and they deal with people with bad credit all the time.
Yeah.
That's something to go into very, very quickly. And again, F&I managers, just to hand them $20 is a great way to do things, and actually hand them the $20 bill.
Yeah.
Because A, that way it's off their taxes, they're happier. And B, it keeps the relationship alive because every time you're handing them an actual bill, you're walking in.
Yeah, for sure.
Real estate agents, when there's people who can't pre-qualify, mortgage loan people, those are the people you really want to tie down, like bring in. Anybody who has to submit a credit report to get through. Um, I would also probably start working with perhaps marriage counselors.
Yeah, I've peeked into that industry as well, but
Yeah, that's one for you to kind of bring into, because I know particularly like my brother and sister-in-law, even though they won't admit the problem, and that's going to be a big obstacle as well too for you.
absolutely.
Um, they have severe problems in terms of talking about money, based
Yeah.
just on what I've heard and in passing almost.
I think that's the biggest challenge too, is people don't want to talk about it online or on Facebook, and they don't admit it until something major happens.
So it's I work with real estate agents for my W-2 job, and most of them survived the big crash back in 08, 09. The problem was they would go to the house. It's like, hey, you're in pre-foreclosure. And they thought they would be able to fix it all before the doors locked behind them. It's very difficult to realize you have a problem until you actually hit that rock bottom.
Yeah.
So you need to get them to admit the problem beforehand.
Yeah.
And walk them through how big the problem actually is. What's your strategy in terms of getting to those conversations?
I don't know right now. I've struggled trying to get online, but nobody wants to engage on Facebook type of thing. And
Well, I love social media, but I don't know how great that is for you.
yeah,
Because if people are very reluctant to talk about it with their husband and wives, they're not going to share it with a stranger.
yeah.
Um,
So I haven't figured that one out yet, how to get that, because if I get them into the consult, I can just about sell anybody.
yes.
But it's getting them to that consult to have that conversation is what my struggle has been.
And you're doing a lot of the right things in terms of offering free content, trying to help. Um, what may work better for you is very targeted content in terms of running ads for that. very, very targeted, where it's you name one specific communication problem. Does your husband or wife shut down every single time you try to talk about money? Here are my tips to get
Yeah.
that conversation going. And you record that 20-minute video in exchange for an email address. That might be, but
Absolutely.
you're going to have to start those ads in terms of those very specific hot button things, and start showing them and start being that trusted advisor very early. Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram and YouTube are going to be very difficult to start those conversations the way you want to, though, because nobody's going to be publicly
Yeah, for
say,
sure.
Dave Ramsey is kind of the anomaly.
Yeah.
Like, he started before all of this, when it was a one directional there wasn't leave comments, there wasn't subscribe, it was just people listened to his radio show.
Yeah.
It's much more interactive on social media. You've got
Well,
to find a way to talk to their problems very quickly and then go from there.
yeah.
So what are, like,
He's built a trust factor.
yeah, what would you say the most common problem you run into is with, and I know finances, like, but in terms of getting people to admit that there is an actual problem, what's usually the first sign you see that they're having an issue?
I think the biggest thing is people living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't think that that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any money for emergencies. They're just waiting. They're they spend all their money this week to wait for that next paycheck next week, and
Okay.
but they don't see that as a problem. They just see that as a management issue sometimes.
Yeah, and they don't even see it that way. They just see, because that's how their parents lived their whole lives, and they just think that's
Absolutely.
part of life. They don't see it as the red flag that it really is.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of the best way to actually address that and bring the source of the problem up there. I hate to be a fear-based motivator, but fear works sometimes. In terms of, they know that their car is going to break down and it's going to cost them $1,000 because it's $100 an hour for labor now anyway.
Yeah.
Even if your call to action is, let me help you find have a $5,000 account quick, or a $1,000 account quick, that might, like,
Well, I mean, I've even went to the point is telling, like, asking people, say, hey, I can, like, we sit down and look at your budget. I'll find $300 to $500 right then and there in your budget that you didn't know was there.
that's an excellent call to action. Something along the lines of, I could give you $1,000 in a savings account in less than 2 months,
Yeah.
just by not doing this all the time.
Absolutely.
Well, I know, because I have a lot of clients who, like, oh, I've never have money, but there they are holding a $6 like carafe from Starbucks.
Yeah.
So,
And they do that daily.
yeah, and they don't realize that's $200 a month.
Yeah.
That's probably a good call to action for ads is, you need $1,000 to protect you. I know I'm kind of stealing from Dave Ramsey, because that's the book that I've read mostly on finances, but to protect you from Murphy's Law. Once you
Absolutely.
things go so much smoother when you have $1,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
Things don't go wrong as often. How much do you sell, like, a first time consult with, like, where you just go through their budget? Have you done that with them before? Do you sell that as a standalone service?
I have a budget review, yes, but I haven't got anybody to bite on it either. So,
Okay.
but again, I haven't sponsored those ads to put out there. It's just been my network, so to speak.
You're like organic posts.
Yeah.
And I want to eventually get it where it's not sponsored posts over and over and over again.
Yeah. I have I have like 250 likes on my Facebook page, but they're not engaged. So
No,
you
and
lose that.
Facebook business pages are almost worthless nowadays anyway. The only reason you really want them is to be able to promote ads.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many likes you have because it doesn't show up in anybody's feed anymore. I can't remember the last thing that I saw that came from somebody's feed unless you're reposting it from your personal account.
That's true.
Yeah. But I just know like Facebook doesn't reward that engagement anymore. So having those likes, it's not bad, but it doesn't really help you much either. Do you
Yeah.
post your business content from your personal page?
I'll share it usually.
Okay. That's a good first step to actually get them to take a look at it. My first step in my mind would be start trying to create referral partners. Start trying to get some lead sources in because that won't cost you anything unless you have a consult.
Yeah.
Unless you get a client, whether it's $20, whatever works best for you, but start figuring out who your ideal customer is, that young married couple who hasn't really had that finance talk yet.
Yeah.
Who do they also work with? They work with a car dealership who tries to sell them a car at a 19% interest rate.
Exactly.
They work with a real estate agent who tells them they get pre-approved to look at a house. Rental boards, you probably won't have as much luck on, but you might. Like some people like big housing complexes because they may turn people down to say, hey, you don't have the credit to live here. And if you find somebody who's in charge of like the leasing office, they may be able to hand some customers off. Even if it's 3 people a year, I don't know what your one-on-one services cost, but you probably only need 40 to 50 clients to be super, super happy.
Yeah.
I don't think I doubt at a one-on-one business that you have the capacity to go much higher than that.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You only have so much time in a month or in a day. So
So what does your one-on-one service look like? Like how many times are you sitting down with them?
typically, I mean, the start of the program or the whole program that I have is 7 weeks or 7 months long. And so there's 7 lessons there that we go through to build the foundation around their finances and their communication. But so that initial span is 7 months. Now, if they want to pursue it and keep going, then we kind of do more of a counseling or consulting at that point where I'm there to help support them in the budgeting and the communication going forward if they need further than that 7 months worth of help.
So you kind of
accountability
have,
in a sense.
like it's like a 7-month agreement, and then they could go month to month if they choose to.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so that makes a lot more sense to me. But you're sitting down once a month with them.
Yeah.
Okay. That's when you may want to up the frequency because you talk to them and then they have 29 days to make bad decisions.
Yeah, and that's where I've done some follow-up calls in between.
Okay.
To where, and then they have access to call if they have questions and stuff. But I've noticed that they're not going to call unless, and tell me they screwed up. But
yeah, the whole problem is that they don't know how to talk about finances to begin with. To expect them to call and talk about finances isn't realistic.
Yeah. That's what I started doing, like especially the first month or first couple of months. I'll make them schedule a follow-up call about halfway through that first month, just to see where they're at, see how things are going, and kind of keep them on track from there. But which has worked a little bit.
Have you done any pro bono clients?
I've got some friends that I'm helping at the moment, and trying to get them and they're going to help me maybe get a testimonial or something.
That's exactly what I would have suggested is if you're going to help them for 7 months, you need to do more than get more than a testimonial. see if they will actually let you record the calls. Like they'll say you could omit certain things, but and I would say have it be a complete stranger, not somebody who already likes you.
Yeah.
But say, I'm willing to coach you for free. Normally I charge however much you do. I'm $500 a month for this. I'm going to do it for free, but I want to use these videos that we do on Zoom as in order to show people what the process looks like, so that they could see what everything, like what we go through, how we actually tailor it to you. And actually you could create those clips afterwards and put that course together. Then it's more than a testimonial. Then it's 6-7 hours of content that you could leverage too. But
Absolutely.
we're getting into a lot of different ideas right now. We have to narrow this down now.
Yeah.
In terms of like action steps you could take pretty immediately. I think step one is going to be create referral partners. That's going to be no costs to you until they send somebody. We call it our core 100. Like in the real estate business, like get some people to send things to you. But you have to figure out those 30-40 people who are going to be referral sources for you. And you have to touch base with them at least once a month. Whether it's F&I managers, whether it's dealerships, whether it's real estate agents, like real estate companies wind up working really well, like broker owners. That I would say is step one. Create a list of the 30 places in your area that you can leverage very quickly. Online is great when you try to scale, but right now I think you're better off focusing small and staying geographically local.
Yeah.
Eventually you grow up, but I think right now if you could keep it to a 100-mile radius, that'll be much more useful for you.
Yeah.
Just in terms of when you do want to eventually run ads, like on a bigger level. But I would narrow it down to, I mean, even still, how big is your area? Like how big is your city in terms of population?
I mean, my immediate city is small, but I live just north of Dallas, so okay. I've got the whole metroplex.
Yeah,
basically.
so at that point, if you go even a 50-mile radius, you've probably got 1 million people.
Yeah.
That point, and you only need 40 to 50 people to survive. Don't open it up if you don't have to. Just focus on Dallas.
Yeah.
And at that point, you could also do in-person calls, and that'll be a much more personal touch and to teach that level of communication as opposed to doing it online. Like Zoom is much better than phone calls.
Yeah.
But do it in person whenever you can.
For sure.
Narrow
that was the original intention, but with COVID, I kind of tried to change my path on that for a little while. But
I like the idea, but again, there's a million people in your radius, in that 50-mile radius, probably more, but just as a rough guess, because I assume Dallas has a population of $300,000 to $400,000 just itself. Plus, you add in Fort Worth, that's probably another 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that point, you don't need you only need 40 to 50 people. That's it.
Yeah.
That should be like kind of invigorating for you in a certain sense, is that that's all you need in order to hit your goals, I assume.
Yeah. Definitely.
So for you to open it up and try and do it nationwide doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it's like, I'm just talking with you. I know you're super competent in it, but I know California people don't listen to Texas people and vice versa. Like it's sad to say, but the country's become that segmented. So why go after them? That's going to be a very low transition for you. But there's more than enough business just in the Dallas region to keep you very, very profitable. And eventually, as you grow, you start training people, you start building a team, you start hiring admins. Then you could grow farther apart, but don't. It's too expensive to go any bigger than just Dallas.
Yeah.
Because with that million people, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. So, say half of that population is married, a third of that population. So you've probably got, if it's a million people in that radius, you've got 100, let's say 50,000 ideal clients. Of those 50,000 ideal clients, you only need to convert less than 1%,
Yeah.
like 0.01%. That's all you need to be successful. You've got all you need local, no reason to spread yourself too thin.
For sure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I was spreading it too wide and not catching anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like the holes in the net were this big and you were wondering why you weren't catching any fish.
Yeah.
There's a book, Robert Cialdini's Persuasion.
Persuasion. I've read that one.
Yeah. So you
I
remember
love
the
it.
story about the banner ads, the pop-up ads.
Yes.
The more often they see them, the more likely they're actually going to buy. In contrary to popular opinion, that the more they see it, the less likely they'll buy.
Yeah.
You're better off doing something like a retargeting ad, focusing it purely on your area and just promote from there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like put your face on bus benches, but pretty close to put your face on bus benches. I'm not a big fan of that because I don't know the last time I've ever called the bus bench ad, but you have to be more of a local fixture as opposed to a national fixture.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's scarcity. You don't have a scarcity problem. You have a concerted effort problem. You need to get them to trust you first.
Absolutely.
So nail that niche down. Referral partners is probably going to be the best free way to start doing this. All it really costs you is that tank of gas to go to the dealerships, the leasing offices, whatnot. Show up with a dozen donuts because car people love donuts.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I help. I can help your customers out. When you see these people, here's not quite give them my card, but figure out how you want them to be input into your funnel.
Okay.
And what would work best for them and for you.
Yeah.
Just giving them the card won't create any action. You need to offer something to sweeten it, where it's like, hey, we've got the printout of your credit report. This is a company we use, and he will do a free credit evaluation with you and see what we could clean up first, so that maybe in 3 months, after a few phone calls to Equifax, this will be taken care of.
Yeah.
That might be the better free service, that initial credit consulting.
Yeah.
Then you can talk about what the underlying issues are. Is, hey, you're paycheck to paycheck and the paychecks aren't big enough.
Yeah, exactly. Or the outgo's too big.
Yeah, exactly. That's the more likely issue, is the outgo than the income. So
Absolutely.
Narrow down your focus and create those referral partners and talk to them once a month at least. That I think is your action item on the immediate basis.
Okay.
Facebook ads, things like that. Work on creating free-ish content to get people into your funnel. Even if it's, hey, here's what to look for on your credit report. Here's how you know that you're running into an issue. Here's how to save up $1,000 in 2 months.
Yeah.
Starting with those things and creating that content, once you become part of their daily life or weekly life in terms of what they're seeing constantly, it's a lot easier to convert them into customers from then on, but it's going to take you a long time to build up that comfort.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the beginning, you need the leads. That's got to be step one. And the referral program the referral program is the best way to do that.
Okay, I'll focus on that, I think.
Yeah, that's step one, and then work on the free content to stay in front of them. Um, how are you with keeping up the database, working with a CRM, doing all of those things?
I mean, it's fairly easy at this point. So,
Okay. Well, assume
uh,
it's going to get harder.
I mean, I'm good. I've been using a CRM before I started this business. I was managing a larger, multi-million dollar business, and so we were managing, I mean, 50 to 60 monthly clients plus the one-off type clients. There's probably another 100 there a month.
Okay.
So, I mean, I was doing a lot of CRM management before.
Okay.
So I'm used to it. I can manage that pretty easily.
The thing is, you've got to like switch your mindset into being a content creator, which it doesn't
Yes.
sound like that's your comfort zone.
It hasn't ever been until these last couple of months. I've really, I guess, focused on that. And so I've been writing a lot. I've been trying to do a lot of videos.
Good.
Videos are my weakness for sure because I'm not a big camera person. Um,
So, do you
but
want to know? I didn't like myself on camera either, and I speak to people all the time about like being on camera. Do you want to know why most people don't like seeing themselves on video?
why?
It's a psychological idea called the mere exposure effect, MERE. So, simply put, people like what they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
The problem is what we're accustomed to and the way we look and the way we sound is wrong.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing ourselves in a mirror, which is the flipped image. So I have like the squintier left eye and my head pops a little to the right. On video, I look wrong because my head's going the wrong way and the wrong eye is squinty.
Yeah.
I don't like the way my voice sounds because when I talk, I sound like the Allstate guy to me. Like it's that deeper octave because when your vocal cords move, it actually vibrates the little pin bones in your ear. That's why nobody likes the way they sound.
Yeah.
It's the same thing everybody else hears, but it took me realizing those things that I was the one that was wrong, which is always
Not
a
them.
very tough step to make
Yeah.
in order to get comfortable with video.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest, like for me, is just not paying attention to what I look like and just focus on, the audience or the camera type thing.
I look like Yukon Cornelius from the old Rudolph show, like cartoon. Like I don't care. So I look like Orange Chewbacca. I know I'm not pretty. I'll skate by either way. It's the
Yeah, exactly.
information, it's the client service that I have to do it for.
Absolutely.
But you're doing a lot of things really well. I don't want, you had a lot of the right instincts and then COVID hit and it sent you a little bit into a panic from the sound of things.
Probably.
Yeah. But you were thinking the right way. It was just once COVID hit you, like, okay, it was a little bit of a scarcity mindset and you tried to widen the net without the rope to do it.
Yeah.
Stay local. Be the guy. Because if it's going to be between you, a local guy who grew up in the same schools, or somebody who works with Dave Ramsey, they'd rather work with you.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, that it's one-on-one, that it's right in person, that it's personable. Like, you know, a lot of the same people. Stay small. And the good thing is you don't need much.
Yeah.
To be like wildly successful, you don't need much.
For sure.
We just have to get you to stop working all hours of the night.
Yeah. I mean, my goal was only to do that for a couple months to get things rolling, and then I would change up that schedule because I knew I couldn't do it long term. But
No, that's not something for you to do for a year or so.
yeah.
The good thing is your customer cycle time. Like once you have that console, it's not like you're going to be chasing them for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. It's
Yeah.
pretty much, do they sign up right then and there?
Yeah.
That's going to be the biggest indicator.
For sure.
Because if they don't sign up right with you, then they'll start looking and there's a million other finance companies. So you need to make sure that your conversion rate when you sit down at the dining room table is very high.
Yeah.
Just purely by that level of, but the bigger priority is getting to the dining room table.
Yeah.
So that's what, figure out more ways to bring people in that you don't have to explicitly pay Mark Zuckerberg, that guy for. So, all right.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And whatever else, like however I can help, if I know somebody in the future that I could point in your direction, I'm happy to. Actually, while you're here, why don't you tell people where they could reach you, where they could find you, where they could reach out if they're having these communication issues.
Yeah, so I guess the best place to go is just the website is aafinancialcoaching.com. And you can find our free, short course there to help get started in that communication and budgeting process. But I'd love to help. I've been married 10 years, so I've got a lot of communication that I've had with my wife. So we've had to learn a lot in that process. So I can help in both areas. So can reach out to us and give us a call, I guess.
Yeah. And it sounds like, just purely off of what I've heard, you're saying all the same things all the gigantic players are saying. You can offer the same level of service in a much more congenial atmosphere than most people can.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't in Dallas, like, make sure people are reaching out to you. That's going to be the big one.
Yeah. I
But
think the expertise that I can bring, like, Dave's got the big overall plan, but what I do is I'm helping you in the weeds necessarily. Like, I'm walking through the mud with you,
yeah,
type of mentality.
and Dave is excellent at what he does, but if you don't have somebody to actually implement it, it
Yeah.
doesn't work. Like, I could buy
Some
the
people
best,
can take it and run with it, but most people can't, and that's why they fail at it.
you could have the best tools in the world. It doesn't matter if they still sit on the pegboard.
Absolutely.
So get somebody to actually help you implement these things, and that's what's going to make the difference more than you reading a book
Yeah.
or listening to Dave's podcast. It's a great podcast, but you probably won't implement it the way you're supposed to
Yeah.
without
Absolutely.
there. So, but yeah, it was awesome talking to you. Feel free to reach out. I want you to come back when you have the next big problems,
Absolutely.
because I want you to have bigger problems.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good thing to have. So, um, uh, again, just stay in touch. I'll put all the contact in the episode description as well. Make sure you reach out to Zach, and thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great one.